أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. For the last few sessions, we have been endeavoring to comprehend the institution of prophethood as described in the Holy Quran, and to understand in depth the functions and purposes of this noblest of institutions. As we perceive prophethood in the light of the Holy Quran, we begin to love this institution. It's so charming, so wonderful, so heavenly beautiful. Nothing could be better than the favor of Allah which is shown to human beings in the form of prophethood. It is the highest, noblest office. And one's heart begins to leap out towards those ages when the prophets came. One yearns to belong to such an age. One yearns to be able to see prophets, to touch them, to speak to them, to listen to them, to be blessed by them, to understand them as they appear, to help them in spreading their message and so on and so forth. And to share those sorrows and those sufferings which is the lot of every prophet. And to share the glory as well, which is attached to the office of prophethood. In that imagination, one begins to imagine the coming of the prophets. One may also construct a picture of Prophet's first appearance, understanding this office to be the highest, the greatest, the loftiest. One can imagine, or one should expect at least, that prophets will be awarded the greatest and the most glamorous welcome that is ever awarded to any hero. Naturally, that is their lot, that is what they deserve. Because no human office is to be compared with the lowest of Allah's favor shown on man. No profane authority is to be compared in value even with the Salihiyat, which is the lowest rung of Allah's favors. So to imagine Prophet having come, naturally one can expect that mankind would fall head over heels to welcome prophets, and one can imagine gates being constructed, lofty, beautiful arches being raised, banners put aloft welcoming prophets, hymns being sung, songs of praises, heavenly songs of Allah's prophets' praises being sung, and people vying with each other to have the first glimpse of prophets appearing on the straight path, the road to Allah that is so ever Mustaqim. And one can imagine that road being thronged with multitudinous crowds of people, awaiting to have just one glimpse of the holy faces of prophets. That is the sort of welcome which one logically expects will be awarded to all prophets. But most unfortunately, that is not so. It's quite a different welcome which is in store for them. And instead of such a beautiful picture being created, a completely different view is observed from the vantage point of mankind. From the vantage point of Allah's view, a completely different picture is being created. But as we observe in the limelight of history, as preserved by the Holy Quran itself, a completely different and most predictable picture is created. We come across this strange declaration of the Holy Quran to begin with. وَإِذَا أَنْعَمْنَا عَلَى الْإِنسَانِ أَعْرَضَ بِجَانِبِهِ وَإِذَا مَسَّهُ الشَّرُّ كَانَ يَئُوسًا. And lo, when we bestow favor on man, he turns away and goes aside. And when evil touches him, he gives himself up to despair. Now this is the nema, the nema of prophethood in the first instance which is being described. If a worldly prayer is being distributed, people would vie with each other, rush forward to reach that worldly prayer first and to partake of it as much as they can, to the maximum of their capacity, as much as they can carry back home. But when the spiritual prayer is being distributed, and that too at the hands of the highest favored ones of Allah, the prophets, this is what man does. He turns his back to such favors, and not only that, he abuses those who come to distribute those favors. So the second declaration of what happens to the prophets and what sort of welcome is awarded to prophets is mentioned in this verse, yes. Ya hasratan ala al-ibad, Ya hasratan ala al-ibad, ma yatihim illa kanu bihi yasta'un. Alas, for my servants, or for men, there comes not a messenger to them, but they mock at him. Alam yarau kam ahlakna qablahum min al-qurun annahum ilayhim la yarji'un. Do they not perceive, do they not see how many generations before them have we destroyed so utterly that they will never return to them again? They're totally lost. Why? Because they treated Allah's messengers like they are treating Allah's messengers today. That is implied. Then the Holy Quran tells us, ثُمَّ أَرْسَلْنَا رُسُلَنَا تَتْرَىٰ كُلَّمَا جَاءَ أُمَّةً رَسُولُهَا كَذَّبُوهُ فَأَتْبَعْنَا بَعْضَهُمْ بَعْضًا وَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ أَحَادِيثَ فَبُعْدًا لِقَوْمٍ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. Then we sent processions of prophets, prophet after prophet. But lo, with each prophet they behaved in the same manner. كُلَّمَا جَاءَهُمْ رَسُولُهَا. Whenever a prophet came to the people to whom he was sent to address, كَذَّبُوهُ, they rejected him and declared him to be a false man. فَأَتْبَعْنَا بَعْضَهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ وَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ أَحَادِيثَ. And we also treated such people in the same manner as we always do. One after the other, we wiped them out from the face of earth. Wiped them off from the face of earth. وَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ أَحَادِيثَ, and made them tales, turned them into tales. فَبُعْدًا لِقَوْمٍ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. Woe to such people, curse to those who do not believe. So we do not see any grand welcome of prophets at the hands of the people to whom they are sent in the manner that the worldly heroes are awarded welcomes. Instead of garlanding them with beautiful flowers, they are garlanded with shoes. Instead of showering petals of flowers upon them, they shower them with stones and abuses, and hurl the most filthy abuse against them, and use the most foul language against them. Instead of erecting beautiful arches and creating gates, they erect barriers and create barricades against the prophets. And they belong to different types. Different types of barriers are created so that somehow or the other the passage of prophets is obstructed. So imagine a prophet appearing alone by himself on the wide path of Sirat al-Mustaqim, the straight road that leads to Allah. He's just by himself alone. And the whole world is standing opposite to him, not following him, opposing him, trying to obstruct his passage. The methods they use have all been preserved in the Holy Quran. This is how the Nema is revealed to mankind, and this is how mankind treats Allah's Nema, Allah's favors. Sentimental barriers are created. Mythical barriers are created. Philosophical barriers are created. And barriers pertaining to the scriptures, quoting scriptures, are also created. And after all, when every effort on the part of the human beings has failed to arrest the progress of prophethood, then physical barriers are also created. So of these I'll give you a taste, just to demonstrate how the prophets are treated, how the best of Allah's favors is treated with scant respect rather with animosity and belligerence. Now sentimental barriers. It is said that it is an insult to the previous prophet if a new prophet comes. How it becomes an insult, nobody can ever prove. And nobody ever makes an effort to prove. But it is taken as for granted that if a new prophet comes, the previous one will be insulted somehow. And the Holy Quran warns us against this approach and tells us that this is not a new approach. Much before In fact, about 1300 years before the oath was taken by the Muslims of present age, the Holy Quran had predicted it. And the Holy Quran had referred to the history of religion and warned us against such an approach. First of all, we read a reference of this in Surah Al-Mu'min, verse 35. It reads, وَلَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ يُوسُفُ مِنْ قَبْلُ بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ فَمَا زِلْتُمْ فِي شَكٍّ مِّمَّا جَاءَكُمْ بِهِ حَتَّى إِذَا هَلَكَ قُلْتُمْ لَنْ يَبْعَثَ اللَّهُ مِنْ بَعْدِهِ رَسُولًا فَذَلِكَ يُضِلُّ اللَّهُ مَنْ هُوَ مُسْرِفٌ مُرْتَابٌ. Verily, Joseph came to you with clear signs and proofs of his truth. فَمَا فِي شَكٍّ مِّمَّا جَاءَكُمْ بِهِ, but you remain in doubt concerning that which he brought to you. حَتَّى إِذَا هَلَكَ, until when he died. As long as he lived, you opposed him. But when he died, you took a completely different stance. You made a volte-face and started saying, لَنْ يَبْعَثَ اللَّهُ مِنْ بَعْدِهِ رَسُولًا. He was a Rasul, he was a prophet, all right, but after him, no prophet will ever be raised by Allah. كَذَلِكَ يُضِلُّ اللَّهُ مَن يَشَاءُ. This is how Allah declares a people misguided. مَنْ هُوَ مُسْرِفٌ مُرْتَابٌ, a person who has gone astray and is a transgressor of the highest degree. Second, we come across the same idea being mentioned in Surah Jinn. When a company of jinn, some people of southern tribes of Arabia, came to Ahmad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and sought interview with him privately, which was granted to them. According to the Holy Quran, when having accepted Ahmad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and got initiated into Islam at his hands, they were leaving. They started speaking to each other of their previous ignorant views and their wrong notions they used to hold about things. Describing that, the Holy Quran tells us, they said, وَإِنَّهُ كَانَ يَقُولُ سَفِيهُنَا عَلَى اللَّهِ شَطَطًا. وَإِنَّا ظَنَنَّا لَنْ يَقُولَ الْإِنسُ وَالْجِنُّ عَلَى اللَّهِ كَذِبًا أَلَمْ تَقُولَ الْإِنسُ وَالْجِنُّ عَلَى اللَّهِ كَذِبًا وَأَنَّهُ كَانَ رِجَالٌ مِنَ الْإِنسِ يَعُوذُونَ بِرِجَالٍ مِنَ الْجِنِّ فَزَادُوهُمْ رَهَقًا وَأَنَّهُمْ ظَنُّوا كَمَا ظَنَنْتُمْ أَن لَّن يَبْعَثَ اللَّهُ أَحَدًا. One verse I want to repeat again, because instead of reading a Zair, I recited a Zair on Anna. وَأَنَّهُ كَانَ يَقُولُ سَفِيهُنَا عَلَى اللَّهِ شَطَطًا وَأَنَّا ظَنَنَّا أَن لَّن نَّقُولَ كلا لم تكون الإنس والجن على الله كذبا. Now the verse which I want to point out particularly to you is the last verse, which says وَأَنَّهُمْ ظَنُّوا كَمَا ظَنَنْتُمْ أَنْ لَنْ يَبْعَثَ اللَّهُ أَحَدًا. The people to whom I am referring, to whom the Holy Quran refers, started discussing various things of the past between themselves. And they discussed them in this tone that how stupid they were, how misled they were. They used to think these stupid things. This is the tone of their discussion. Among the most stupid things they come is this: وَأَنَّهُمْ ظَنُّوا كَمَا ظَنَنْتُمْ, that our elders used to think as you thought, that Allah would never raise a prophet. And there he is, before our eyes, the one who has just accepted. So how stupid people are, they are talking about their forefathers. That our forefathers used to be so stupid and ignorant that they also had a belief and misnotion that Allah would never raise a prophet like who the people of this age have started believing in this. So this is one of the barriers created in the path of the prophets, and an excuse is invented to reject them. Now this is all sentimental. There is absolutely no solid reason behind this view. Why should not Allah send another prophet, even if so required? Now to justify this view and to turn this sentiment into a sort of reason, the present-day ulama have elaborated this view. They say that it is insulting to the Holy Prophet to think of another one who would share the glory of prophethood along with him. Now, this is a very strange justification for this erroneous view, because if a prophet, having been raised a prophet by Allah, shares the glory of earlier prophets, in the sense they say, does he, in every case, insult the previous prophet? That is the issue to be resolved first. If in principle this allegation is correct, then every prophet who came after Adam, peace be upon him, insulted the previous prophet. Because, in a manner of speaking, he shared the glory of the prophet previous to him. And thereby this process of insult continued and got repeated 124,000 times. What is this? Why Allah is insulting His own favorite ones at the hands of some other favorite ones? Why doesn't He put a stop to all this nonsense of every prophet insulting the previous prophet? In what way is the previous prophet insulted? That is not explained. And it cannot be explained because it doesn't hold water. There is no sense in this. When the prophets come, according to the Holy Quran, they strengthen each other. They praise each other. They speak gloriously of each other. And they support each other. That is no insult. But in case of Hazrat Mirza Tahir Ahmad, if at all it was an insult previously, in this case it cannot be proved to be anywhere near insult. Because his claim was not that he shared any glory with Rasulullah by declaring himself to be an independent prophet. His entire claim was that he was totally lost in love of the Holy Prophet of Islam, so much so that he has lost his identity entirely. He is no longer to be treated independently apart from the Holy Prophet of Islam. the word of Holy Prophet of Islam would carry. And he has submitted entirely to the will of the Holy Prophet of Islam. Not a jot of his word can be changed by him or anyone later on till the doomsday. That was his claim. So how can you call this sharing one's glory in a way of rivalry? I mean, this is just a stupid notion which has absolutely no sense whatsoever. Again, they say, by quoting certain stupid, childish examples, that if a mother has another father, how would you like as children of that mother? Would you tolerate another father to add it to the previous father of your own? So they say, how can you tolerate the concept of another prophet appearing after Hazrat Mirza that would be like creating two fathers? Now, if you have already accepted and you have no way out but to accept 124,000 fathers, why not add another to that list? This is absurd, isn't it? I mean, the Holy Quran makes it binding upon you not to reject a single prophet. La ufarriqu baina ahadin min rusuli. And it has become an article of your faith, fundamental article of your faith, that you will believe without making any discrimination against any prophet, in all prophets equally. So, according to some traditions, the number of those prophets is about 124,000 plus minus. That being so, if a prophet is a father, in a way he is, then already you have accepted 124,000 prophets, and that is 124,000 fathers. If that is not an insult to each other, why this? Moreover, he has claimed to be a son, not a father. Why disregard that claim? All through Hazrat Mirza writings, peace be upon him, this is made abundantly clear that Ahmad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is treated like a father, like a spiritual father, as no son of his before had treated him so beautiful with such immense love. वो है, मैं चीज क्या हूँ, बस फैसला ये. This is a repeated claim of Hazrat Mirza Tahir Ahmad. It is he alone. What am I? That is the final verdict. Whatever I receive at his hand. Whatever you see in me of beauty is the beauty imparted to me by his beauty. Whatever excellence I have gained through following him. This is the claim. What a distorted thinking it is they have. That this claim is being converted into a claim of the rival father, as if another father is added to the Muslim. So this is just total blindness to see things, to see realities. In fact, they have decided to go wrong, and nobody can put such people right who have decided themselves to go wrong. They insult Ahmad sallallahu alaihi wasallam by posing that Hazrat Islam claimed to be a rival to him like a father, added to another father. This is their way of corrupt way of thinking, and we do not share, we reject totally this way of thinking. But they must sentimentalize because there are no arguments with them. Now, Khatm al-Nubuwwat, in this sense, has been it's not a new idea at all to mankind. In different forms, it has always existed. Right from the inception of the first prophet on earth, the concept of Khatm al-Nubuwwat as held by the opponents of Ahmadiyya, that concept, not the real concept, is the most ancient concept in the history of religion. but it has taken different form and different shapes. And it has appeared in different guises. As far as the clear-cut obstruction to the passage of prophet is concerned, I have already quoted a verse from the Holy Quran, and this view is also an ancient view, that no prophet will ever be raised after some prophets. But apart from that, mythical barriers are created in the way of acceptance of prophets. Those mythical barriers create the same result, but in a different way. When a prophet comes, his status is raised to that of a superman, or sometimes to the status of a god, to a son of God, to a brother of God, to some other relative of God, with all the attributes of gods which it is impossible to appear in human beings. So, in reality, what is happening is a barrier is created in the way of accepting the future prophet. It can amount to that and to nothing more. Because such a godly person would never come, this is obvious. He can never come. Can Jesus Christ reappear on earth in the same glory as is expected, with the same godly features and with the same dramatic appearance as is attributed to him? You know, dangling from the heaven, just slowly appearing upon earth, with all the glory and giving no chance for the crooked and the wicked-minded to reject him. Can such a thing ever occur? It can't. So this is Khatm an-Nubuwwah. When he would appear again, in all humility like he appeared in the first time, we would be rejected because we would say, this is not how we are expecting you. You are a false man. The one we are expecting, he was to come from the heavens, hanging from the shoulders of angels, or just appearing in grand glory which could not be rejected by mankind. So this is Khatm an-Nubuwwah, nothing more, nothing less. Again, when the Hindus are expecting Krishna to appear, they expect him to appear with some wings, 8 arms, or 4 arms if I remember correctly. Is it 4 arms or 8 arms attributed to Krishna? Well, at least 4. 4, yes. Or maybe 4. Let's call it 4. That's enough. 4 arms and wings and certain power which man never possesses. So can such a Krishna ever come? Obviously not. So a concept of Khatm an-Nubuwwah has already been in existence among Hindus for thousands of years. For about 4,000 years at least, we can say. This concept is continuing to exist in them, and this is why no Krishna has ever appeared to them. While many other prophets came and went and were rejected, and the Krishna in his last manifestation, or maybe one of the manifestations, appeared in Kalyan, and he was also rejected. Because he did not have any 4 arms to show to them to establish his identity. So mythical barriers are created all over the world. Not only in the Middle East, not only in the subcontinent of India and Pakistan, but everywhere in the world, people have seen to it. Mankind is very clever in this regard. They want to accept every curse with open arms, but they will not welcome the highest of all the favors, that is prophethood. This is they are determined about, No way of accepting the prophet. So in disguise or in openly, overtly or covertly, they have created barriers in the way of prophets. And that is a common feature all over the world without exception. Such attributes are always created around the figure of prophets, as they would never come with those attributes, so no trial would be put. People would be put, that is to say, no trial. Again, philosophical barriers are also created, like the ones created in the modern times by Professor Iqbal or Allama Iqbal, so-called Shair Mashriq. He has written on this subject from the philosophical point of view. And I can demonstrate one or two of his brilliant ideas as to why no prophet should come after the Holy Prophet of Islam, peace be upon him. Not even in English about Indian language. One of his arguments is this, that by the inception of Ahmad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, by his advent, a new age of adulthood is ushered. Man has come of age. He has become adult enough to understand his gains and losses, what is good for him and what is bad for him. And having matured, he is no longer in need of such heavenly guidance as earlier man always stood in need of. Prophets, according to Iqbal, used to come because man was not mature. He could not see the straight path ahead of him. But now with the revelation of Islam, when mankind is prepared for the acceptance of universal religion and the final and the most consummate religion, he is also wise enough to see to choose between good and evil, and to see the darkness from the light and light from the darkness. Therefore, that quality which has been gained by man according to Allama Iqbal was never gained before the time of Ahmad sallallahu. So, no need of any other prophet. Now, if you examine this more closely, you will be surprised to notice that this is exactly the same argument as preserved in the Holy Quran against the institution of prophethood as such. And this is one of the most ancient arguments ever put forward. People have been raising this argument against every prophet before, telling them, who are you to guide us? We can guide ourselves. We know what is good for us and what is bad for us. What authority are you going to tell us this is good and that is bad? Even Shraddha was told this. You come today and can begin to tell us what is right for us and what is wrong for us, how we should spend our money and how we should not spend, how we should earn our money and how we should not earn. So what are you? Just ordinary small people who have not even a good following, only the worst among us follow you. And you have come to guide us, men. So man has ever been of age. Man has ever been behaving like adults. And this is what Iqbal has totally missed to notice, that man is progressing forward and at every cross-section, the man which is found in time is the most advanced. We are advanced, of course, relative to the previous times. But the man of tomorrow will be far more advanced than we are. And he would be looking back at us as not adults. And he would assume himself to be the adult man who has come of age, who is mature. Some scientists project into future and have suggested that possibly in the next few hundred years the science would have achieved such deeper knowledge of things, of the nature of things, that the man of that age will look back at us as we are looking back at a man of 5,000 years ago. Because the speed of progress is hastening up, it is accelerating. So the man we have left behind 5,000 years in 5,000 years, it would not be required for the future man to leave us 5,000 years behind in 5,000 years. He can leave behind 5,000 years in only 100 years. That is the sort of logic he has created. And others to indicate for common man to understand that this is correct. The things are speeding up so fast, so rapidly, that the time scale is changed. Man of yesteryear, in reality, can be left hundreds of years behind, judging from the time scale of the previous days, of the previous ages. So what is this talk of maturity of man? Man of every age has considered himself to be mature enough to see his right from wrong. And that has always been his attitude towards prophets and godly lives. Secondly, when Iqbal says that, it is not Iqbal, it is Nietzsche who is speaking in him. Nietzsche was a German philosopher by whom Iqbal was most deeply impressed. And he creates a man of his own in the name of Mother Woman that was created by Nietzsche in the name of Mother Sabbath. And the features are almost the same features. Now Nietzsche has raised this argument against the existence of God. He says a sort of God was required by previous people because they were not mature enough. Some higher authority was sought to give them direction, and so the concept of a super being was invented, was created by mankind to guide the people of ignorant ages. Now we have come of age, says Nietzsche. Now we can see right from the wrong. So no God is required. So not only the institution of prophethood, but also the institution of godhood would go overboard with the same argument. Secondly, and among so many things which Iqbal has philosophized for the sake of rejecting prophets, he has come out with a very brilliant idea again. He says that it is the greatest blessing of the Holy Prophet of Islam, and this is one of his most distinctive features, that he has saved us from future trials. Previously, whenever a prophet came, people would put to such grave trial of either accepting him or rejecting him. So if they accepted him, well and good. But if they rejected, imagine, they would be cursed and they would be annihilated and destroyed, and they would be doomed forever. So what the Holy Prophet of Islam has done is that he has saved us from that trial once and for all. No more trials. No more trial of acceptance or rejection. So mankind will never be doomed again as it was wrong to be doomed in the time of previous prophets. Now if it is a blessing to save mankind from this trial of acceptance or rejection, why this blessing was not shown by Allah at the first when the first time He sent a prophet in the name of Adam? Why couldn't Allah see that by creating the institution of prophet, He is putting poor mankind into such trials, and the majority of them would be cursed because of their rejection. So Allah, having seen the first experiment fail, repeated the same mistake the second time, sent another prophet. Again he was rejected and the poor majority of mankind was cursed. And still Allah couldn't see light. The third was sent again, and the fourth was raised. He had to repeat this experiment in futility 124,000 times before he began to see light. He said, all right, enough is enough. Enough is enough. Now I must save mankind from this trial from now on, and the posterity after the time of Muhammad will not be tried. How stupid it is. He does not understand the ABC of the religious phenomena and religious philosophy. The fact is that according to the Holy Quran, that which he considers a curse is a blessing of prophethood. The Holy Quran tells us, مَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيَذَرَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ عَلَىٰ مَا أَنْتُمْ عَلَيْهِ حَتَّىٰ يَمِيزَ الْخَبِيثَ مِنَ الطَّيِّبِ وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيُطْلِعَكُمْ عَلَى الْغَيْبِ وَلَٰكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَجْتَبِي مِن رُّسُلِهِ مَن يَشَاءُ فَآمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرُسُلِهِ وَإِن تُؤْمِنُوا وَتَتَّقُوا فَلَكُمْ أَجْرٌ عَظِيمٌ. مَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيَذَرَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ عَلَىٰ مَا أَنْتُمْ عَلَيْهِ حَتَّىٰ يَمِيزَ الْخَبِيثَ مِنَ الطَّيِّبِ. Allah would not let the believers be alone until He separates the wicked from the good. This trial continues even after people have accepted Ahmadiyya sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is what he fails to understand. The fact is that the first trial of coming of the Prophet is not a trial in that sense. It is a sifting, a process of sifting, right from the wrong. And if filth is mixed with goodness, with purity, and somebody begins to separate the filth, can any sane man object against it by telling me, look here, can't you understand that filth is much more than the purity? When you separate the filth, you'll be rejecting the majority in favor of a very small minority of your things. So why are you destroying all this? Leave it alone. Let the filth remain mixed up with the goodness, with the purity. Is that the right attitude? Of course it is wrong. What the prophets do is not that they bring the curse. They separate the curse from the blessing. This is what they do. This process is declared as a process of shifting by the Holy Quran repeatedly, not only in this verse but in other verses too. In other verses which I quoted earlier, the prophets are said to sift the right from the wrong. When they come, by the trial of acceptance or rejection, those people who are right-minded, only they accept them. That is to say that the age was already cursed. A curse was not brought by the prophets upon the people, but people were already in a state of cursedness. They were in a wrong state, in a corrupt state. And it was a blessing of Allah that from among them some were saved. This is the process, the correct process as described by the Holy Quran. Not as a past event. He sees it completely distorted from the opposite side. He inverts it into completely a different picture altogether. So let me make it clear. When the prophets come, as Iqbal would have us believe, it is not that because people are put to a trial and because some rejecting, so they are cursed. It is not so at all. The fact is, Zahar al-Fasad fil barri wal bahr. The whole mankind has become corrupt, or does become corrupt before the Prophet is. So what the Prophet does is, he saves some who can be saved from among them, from ultimate destruction. When the mankind is about to be doomed entirely into totality, then the prophets come to save some of them at least. And when some are saved, a process is started whereby other people start following them, and more are saved with the grace of Allah. So if that be a curse, then this curse should be repeated. This should be a most welcome curse. And if that not be a curse, then the curse, if the curse is what it was is, then as I have already said, Allah has been cursing mankind for so long. He must have been so accustomed to it. Why change his ways now? Isn't it rather late in life for Allah to change that custom, that age-old custom of his? Now coming to other barriers, scriptural barriers are also created. Scriptures are quoted in support of these views, and when I say scriptural barriers, they apply to all these barriers which I mentioned earlier. They draw their authority from the scriptures and somehow distort the meaning of the scriptures to support their distorted view that Allah will not send a prophet thereafter. In fact, they don't want to accept that blessing of Allah. And in fact, the universal truth is, Ya Hazrat Mirza Ma yatihi rasulun illa kanu bihi yastahzi'un. Never has mankind found itself in the right frame to accept prophets. And never shall mankind find itself in the right frame to accept prophets. This is a universal law which has no exception, no deviation. Now, the scriptures are quoted, and in regard to Hazrat Mirza's claims, also the scriptures are quoted. Because I have already discussed this issue at length in various previous addresses, so I will not repeat that. Only I will explain a certain verse of the Holy Quran in this regard to the scriptural evidence as it was used, which although I quoted earlier, but I think it should be brought to greater prominence, and it should be much more emphasized than is so far done by Jamaat Ahmadiyya. Because it's a very fundamental verse to the Holy Soul. And it also makes us help understand the phenomenon of prophethood and continuity of prophethood. In what sense it should be done, and in what sense should it be believed. And when you ponder over this issue raised in the verse in question, which I am just going to recite, a very beautiful picture emerges. A most beautiful and most universal picture emerges, which has a continuity in time, and it gains a global aspect, which is no longer regional, the phenomenon of prophethood, no longer related to time. It becomes a global universal phenomenon, as it should be, because it is something which is related to God. It becomes a timeless phenomenon, as it should be, because it is related to Allah, who is timeless. So in what way this verse should be understood and emphasized, this is what I am going to tell you today. I refer to the covenant of prophets. This covenant is of the vital importance, understanding the nature of prophethood and why prophets have been coming and why they should come, and how we should sort out the right prophet from the wrong. All that has been described in these two verses which I am going to quote. فَإِذْ أَخَذْنَا مِنَ النَّبِيِّينَ مِيثَاقَهُمْ وَمِنْكَ وَمِنْ نُوحٍ وَإِبْرَاهِيمَ وَمُوسَى وَعِيسَى ابْنَ مَرْيَمَ وَأَخَذْنَا مِنْهُم مِيثَاقًا غَلِيظًا لِيَسْأَلَ الصَّادِقِينَ عَنْ صِدْقِهِمْ وَأَعْتَدْنَا لِلْكَافِرِينَ عَذَابًا أَلِيمًا. This verse is taken from Surah Al-Ahzab. The two verses which I have quoted have been taken from Surah Al-Ahzab 8 and 9. The translation of the verses in English is this: and O Prophet Muhammad, that is implied, call to mind when we took from the prophets their covenant. Now, obviously, all the earlier prophets are referred to, and the covenant is referred to which was taken from all the prophets. But a strange parenthesis is added here. A strange statement is added in parenthesis here, وَمِنْكَ. And that covenant of prophets we have also taken from thee, O Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. This is the most important point to be understood about this covenant. That it did not come to an end with the coming of Ahmadiyya Muslim, but it continued. And the same covenant was taken from Hazrat Mirza Tahir Ahmad himself, as had been taken previously from all prophets. For instance, the Holy Quran goes on explaining, min Nuh wa Ibrahim wa Musa wa Isa ibn Maryam wa akhadna minhum mithaqan ghaliza. Now this covenant which we took from them and other prophets before them was the strongest possible covenant. Mithaqan ghaliza is the one which is so fortified that it cannot be broken at all. It would not be permitted to be broken at all or violated in any sense. Now what is this covenant of the prophets? This is to be investigated because a very important declaration of the Holy Quran of Surah Ahzab in which we find the ayat Khatam al-Nabiyyin. It must have some relationship with that ayat. Because in the verse Khatam al-Nabiyyin, a very special status of Hazrat sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is mentioned, which is not shared by any other prophet before him. So the ulama of today tell us, which meant that the prophethood, the office of prophethood was to come to an end and he was the last of the prophets in time. Does it really mean this? This is to be decided. And instead of seeking help from other surahs, we turn to this very surah in which the verse Khatam al-Nabiyyin is mentioned. And in this surah, in the beginning, before the verse Khatam al-Nabiyyin is mentioned, we come across this covenant. And Allah tells us that this covenant was taken from Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa as much as was taken by earlier prophets. So what that covenant be? The only covenant in the Holy Quran which has been referred to as covenant of prophets apart from this place is this covenant which I am going to recite. That is in Surah Al-Imran, verse 82. وَإِذْ أَخَذَ اللَّهُ مِيثَاقَ النَّبِيِّينَ لَمَا وَإِذْ أَخَذَ اللَّهُ مِيثَاقَ النَّبِيِّينَ لَمَا آتَيْتُكُم مِّن كِتَابٍ وَحِكْمَةٍ ثُمَّ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ مُّصَدِّقٌ لِّمَا مَعَكُمْ لَتُؤْمِنُنَّ بِهِ وَلَتَنصُرُنَّهُ قَالَ أَقْرَرْتُمْ وَأَخَذْتُمْ عَلَىٰ ذَٰلِكُمْ إِصْرِي قالوا أقررنا قال فاشهدوا وأنا معكم من الشاهدين. And remember the time when Allah took covenant from prophets, from all the prophets. لَمَا آتَيْتُكُم مِّن كِتَابٍ وَحِكْمَةٍ. Whenever a book is revealed to you and wisdom of God is revealed to you, ثُمَّ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ. Then after that, a Sharia has been revealed, a law has been brought. ثُمَّ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ. Then if a prophet comes, مُصَدِّقٌ لِمَا بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ مَا مَعَكُمْ. It says, the translation says fulfilling. But it is not just fulfilling. Musaddiqul Ma'at means who bears testimony to the fact that whatever was possessed by you was right. And he does not reject the truth of the revealed books. That is the meaning of Musaddiq. He testifies to the truth of the books which have been revealed to you and testifies to the truth of the prophets. This is the meaning of Musaddiq. So, if a revelation has been made regarding the law, a book has been revealed, and a wisdom has been expressed therein, after this, if somebody claims to be a prophet, that is the meaning. If somebody says he is a prophet of Allah, if that person who claims to be a prophet supports the earlier scriptures fully, does not oppose them in any way, does not rebel against the previously related to revealed truth, and also bears testimony to the truth of earlier prophets. If that happens, then what is binding upon these prophets? What should they do? The Holy Quran tells us, Allah took the covenant, لَتُؤْمِنُنَّ بِهِ. You will believe in such a man. وَلَتَنْصُرُنَّهُ. Not only believe, you will help, you will aid such a man to the maximum of your ability. Because the tense used is Noon Saqila, which emphasizes the verb in which connection it is used. So which means that you will verily, most certainly, help him to all your ability. Not only just to believe, but to help him, to aid him with all your capability. When Allah took this covenant, then Allah asked, أَأَقْرَرْتُمْ وَأَخَذْتُمْ عَلَى ذَلِكُمْ إِصْرِي. O prophets, have you really come into covenant with me in this regard? Have you agreed upon this? They said, yes, we agree upon it. Then Allah would say, فَشَهِدُوا. Now you bear witness that you have signed this covenant with me, and I am also going to remain a witness to this fact. Now, if the institution of prophethood, that is the subordinate prophethood after the revelation of the law, was closed once and forever, why this covenant was taken from Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam? There is no earthly reason why this covenant should have been taken from him. Can one imagine one? Why should Allah have said it was minka? We took the same covenant from thee, O Muhammad, peace be upon him. Now when you ponder further on this verse, it is the most revealing verse on this issue. It covers all the aspects of prophethood and our relationship to prophethood and the reasons why we should reject prophethood or accept prophethood. The Holy Quran tells in another place that this has been always the claim of the true believers, La nufarriqu baina ahadin min rusul. That we do not make discriminations between one prophet of Allah and another prophet. The fundamental principle involved is this, that whoever comes from Allah, should be accepted because he comes from us, because he represents a higher authority. So this debate, this small-minded debate should not be started because this prophet belongs to that nation or that person or that age, so he doesn't belong to us, we may reject him, and only will accept the prophet of our choice and our selection. This issue is no longer relevant because a higher authority has established his will and manifested it, and after that manifestation, lesser beings on earth are left with no choice of rejection or whatsoever or discrimination. Now that being so, that also implies that prophets should not pick up quarrel between each other, among themselves. If they represent the same authority, they must agree with each other. So the unification of religion is revealed here. One unified concept of religion all over the globe is expressed here. This verse unifies prophets not only in time, one after the other, but also creates a global image of prophets too. That every prophet agrees with every other prophet. That also shows and strongly establishes that wherever there are points of disagreement, they have always been added later on by people. In the fundamental messages, no prophet can ever disagree with any other prophet whatsoever, whosoever, wheresoever, and in whichever time he was found. Now, this is the most glorious message, which have been somehow ignored generally by the scholars. And I think it should be specially emphasized, as it should be emphasized because the language of the Holy Quran here is so strong that seldom you come across such strong language in the Holy Quran in which a covenant is taken in such strong terms by Allah. The strongest possible terms are used here by way of describing this covenant. So it should be emphasized. And the emphasis lies in the region of the true understanding of prophethood. Now, a new picture is created to us, not that a message was revealed and it was changed and part of it was nullified in the sense that it was bad or imperfect, and the second prophet who came, he upheld that part. Every other prophet came fully supporting the previous message plus adding new beauties to it. This is Itmam-e-Nema. This is Ikmal-e-Deen, which ultimately got to its most perfect form at the time of Ahmadiyya. And there was no bone of distinction, no bone of contention ever created between any prophet any time in the history of religion. This is the clear message of this book. So if prophets come to support the previous prophets or other prophets, and they do not pick quarrels with the earlier prophets, they do not disagree with them, only come to perfect the message and carry it further along, what is the harm of accepting such a prophet? Why to go into the question whether Allah did raise him or not? Because you can't determine it anyway. There is no reason why. If anyone claims that he is a prophet of God, and the claim is that he fully supports the earlier prophet in every detail, and if by his time the Sharia, the law, has not been perfected, and now I'll come to that later on, if that is very important. If in his time the law has not yet been perfected, and also he tells them that Allah has shown me some other things in accordance with the teachings already revealed to you, which are good for you. Why should such a man be opposed? Why should such a man be rejected? What harm will he do to you? That is the first issue. the maximum you can do is, if you can't believe in him, you say, well, somehow we can't believe in you. But all right, go on, whatever you do, please go ahead, because you are doing the same service as has been performed by other prophets. Now, in this verse, the Holy Prophet of Islam has been referred to the same covenant, but the wording of the covenant is so beautiful and so perfect that it leaves room for the final appearance of Sharia. After that, the message of law will not be changed, because the words of the covenant are this: लमा आतैतुकुम मिन किताबिन व हिकमतिन सुम्मा जाअकुम रसूलुम मुसद्दिकुन लिमा मअहुम. When you study this verse in the light of, closely study this in the light of this revelation, another meaning dawns upon you. That is to say, that now only those prophets are mentioned here which are not law-bringing. The first prophet from whom covenant is taken is the law-bringing. Because they said, now read it more closely again and with great attention, Lama ataytukum akhadallahu bisaqan nabiyina lama ataytukum min kitabin wa hikmatin. After the book has been revealed, after the wisdom of God has been expressed, summa ja'akum rasul. In the framework of that Sharia, that law, if a prophet comes and does not pick any quarrel with your teaching, does not attempt to change it, 100% agrees with that teaching, then you have absolutely no right to disagree with him. Because he is supporting you, so you should support him. That is the natural result. So, in the light of this new meaning of this verse, what was told to Ahmad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was this: that although the Sharia has been perfected, the law has been made consummate, yet there is room for other prophets, and we take this covenant from you as well. That if someone comes who fully and entirely supports you and your teaching, then your people should not disagree with it. Your people should not reject him, but rather support. In light of this covenant, when you look back at the earlier claimants of prophethood between Ahmad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Hazrat Mirza Tahir Ahmad, the most interesting observation one makes is, that the point one begins to understand is this, that every claimant to prophethood before Hazrat Mirza Tahir interfered with the law of Islam, here or there, and opposed, partially at least, the teachings of Ahmad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Sunnah and the tradition of Ahmad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Without fail, without variation, he created new traditions and introduced new elements into Islam. So such a man, according to this covenant, was not to be supported. But when one comes who says he has not come with anything new whatsoever, he fully and entirely supports not only the teachings of the Holy Quran, but also the traditions of the Holy Prophet of Islam. He has come to revive, not to change. Not a jot of the Sharia of Islam is to be changed by him. Does that covenant apply to him or not? It does. And very strongly. Now obviously when that covenant is taken from the heads of Sharia, from this meaning this appears that this covenant is taken by the heads of new laws, that is the law-bringing prophet, particularly. It means, of course they would die before that prophet comes, most often than not. that means that that covenant applies to his followers and his people. They are bound to fulfill. And if they reject that covenant, then Allah's wrath will fall upon them. So in case of Ahmadiyya, no new prophet is created outside to tell of the Quranic teachings at all. This covenant was to be fulfilled. Otherwise there was no meaning, no sense of taking this covenant from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Had Hazrat Mirza Tahir Ahmad not come, this covenant should have remained completely unfulfilled. So he came to fulfill, that is Musaddiq al-Lama and the word. So later on, inshallah, next time I'll shift to another aspect of the treatment of people, the treatment of prophets at the hands of the people, and the treatment of people at the hand of Allah, following that treatment. That's subject to discuss inshallah in the next sermon. Assalamu alaikum.